Commission here, read off an announcement. First, before we have the call of order, I'm going to read this announcement. Due to COVID-19, this meeting is closed to the public and is subject to change based on the governor's executive order. Public comments are not heard at the budget workshops. Residents are encouraged to watch the workshops on Spectrum Channel 493 with a live stream on the city's website at ocoee.org. Also, the announcement is a tentative budget public hearing is Wednesday, September the 9th at 6 p.m. and the final budget public hearing is Wednesday, September the 23rd at 6 p.m. Both meetings will be broadcast live on Spectrum Channel 493 with a live stream on the city's website at ocoee.org. All right, let's have the city call to order.
Commissioner Brinson,
Present.
Commissioner Wilson,
Present.
Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Firstner,
Here.
Commissioner Oliver.
Here. Are the mics supposed to be on?
So, okay. All right.
You're gonna drive me crazy at home, just tell me
I'm going to turn it over to the budget overview to Finance Director Roberts.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. You have in front of you a slide pack. We are not going to be presenting the slides on the screens this evening, so if you would follow along in your slide pack.
You pull that mic up to your, there you go, a little closer. Thank
Can you hear me better?
Dad, yeah.
Okay, I'll try to stay close. So if you could follow along in your slide pack, that would be great. I would appreciate it. So the first thing I would like to talk to everyone in general about, whoever is listening to us, the city of Ocoee, based on very good fiscal management over the years, the growth in the number of homes in the city, the growth in the number of the businesses, the increase in our median home prices, has made the city of Ocoee very sustainable. So this latest economic downturn that we've experienced because of COVID, we are able to weather this a little better than some of our sister cities, some of our neighbors. We are carrying right now a 39% fund balance. We are at $16.8 million of unassigned. That's the spendable fund balance should we be required to dip into it. That is up $2 million from 2018. So those numbers are as of September 30th of 2019. So we're up $2 million over 2018. I don't expect that at September 30th of 2020 we're going to see the same increase. We'll probably stay flat. The reason for that is that we are experiencing shortfalls in some of our revenue collections as we would expect. So on slide 3, discuss some of that. Ad valorem tax collections are down by 9%. This was as of the end of May. We're starting to see a pickup in that. So we generally see about a 97% collection rate. In May, we were only about 91%. But we're starting to see higher collections in these later months where we don't usually see ad valorem coming in. We're seeing a little more coming in than we typically would this time of the year. So I think we're going to pick some of that back up. Our half-cent sales tax collections down by about 29% from 2019. Municipal revenue sharing is down by about 25%, and other government revenues were down by about 50%. These are as our latest validated numbers, which were from end of May. Unemployment in the city of Ocoee has been affected by COVID. The June numbers were 15.1% unemployment in the city of Ocoee, compared to 10.7% for the state of Florida and 10.2% nationwide. Last year, our unemployment rate at this time of the year was 2.7%. So that's not good news, but the good news is, if we can look for some good news, in the month of June, Florida added 296 jobs. So I think we're coming up, we're picking up, so that is good news. And all of this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Other good news, we've had a 12% growth rate in our taxable value. Last year it was 15%, so not quite as good as it was in 2019, but still good nonetheless. Median home prices increased by about 2.9%. That's 2% lower than we had expected. Last year we were projecting that our home prices would increase by about 4.9%. But again, considering the economic environment we're in right now, the fact that we are continuing to grow the prices of our homes, we're continuing to sell homes, continuing to build homes, this is still good news. We're weathering this economic situation pretty well. So the budget that is in front of you is balanced at 5.15 mils. That's a 0.1 mil reduction from last year's 5.25 mils. The revenue, ad valorem revenue, was budgeted at $16,339,077. What's different about this year is because at the state level, they're expecting ad valorem collection rates to be lower. We normally budget at a 97% collection rate. We're budgeting at a 95% collection rate. Now, the CRA has had a very good year, and their incremental value grew faster than the rest. As we expect, we're putting money into the CRA, we expect that we're going to get some of that back. So the CRA gets about 5.3% of our total ad valorem revenues. So what that means to us is of that 16.3, the general fund benefits only $15.4 million. So that's only an increase in actual benefit to the general fund of $934,000 over last year, budgeted at 5.15 mils. So we use that additional revenue, the 934, we use it to balance the budget, and this year it's being used to offset some of those reductions in forecast for sales tax and those types of other taxes, shared revenue, that we expect will be lower at least in the first few months of the 2020 fiscal year. And as required, here's our millage calculation. You will see at 5.15 mils, we will collect 16.3. Some of that will be shared with the CRA. The rollback rate for this year is 5.018. That would give us $15.89 million in revenue. That would be $758,000 less because, again, budgeting a slightly lower collection rate. And
What page you want?
I am looking at the presentation, page
Yeah.
5.
Page 5, right?
Page 5.
Yeah.
We are able to budget at 5.15, and that's great. I don't know of any other cities locally. You all may have heard something different. We're all starting our workshops. I don't know that there are others out there who are able to reduce and budget, reduce their millage at this point in time, given the economic environment that we have. So it's good that we are able to do so. So on page 6, we start talking about the revenue summary. The top section are our general fund and our enterprise funds. Our total tentative budget this year is $80 million, just over. If you will look at last year, you will see that the general fund was budgeted at $65 million, and this year it's 52. The reason for the difference is the $13 million bond proceeds that we anticipate receiving in September of this year. So when you look and say, what happened? We're going down by this much revenue. That's because of the bond proceeds that we'll be receiving. So if you reduced it by the $13 million, we're a little bit higher than last year, and I should have had that number for you, and I don't. The restricted use funds are below, as you see, all of the impact fees, the water capital and wastewater capital funds. Those funds are available only for the purposes that those funds are intended, and we cannot use those to balance the general fund budget.
Excuse me, Rebecca.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You can't see me because could you give, can I get from you the bond number again? And can you send it to me? The 13 million? You said at the end of the year it's going to be coming?
It's going to be coming, we'll be coming to you September 1st with the resolution. and we should be closing on that shortly thereafter. We brought that to you a few commission meetings ago for the go-ahead. But yes, I can share that with you. It's $13 million in new money.
I just want to make sure it's depicted in these numbers. Yeah.
It's depicted in your 2020 budget number, and the debt service is included in this year's budget for debt service. It's about $895,000 annually in debt service on the new $13 million bond.
Okay.
Okay?
Was that a part of our budget amendment, right?
Yes, the budget amendment that came through, authorized us to go forward with the $13 million. That $13 million is going to be used to complete City Hall. So as you see in the graph depiction on the next page, taxes are the primary source of our revenues, with ad valorem accounting for about 30.8% of our total revenue stream. And the remaining would be the other taxes, half-cent sales tax, and those types of things. Other revenues are sort of insignificant to the collection of the taxes and the intergovernmental revenues. So the expenditure summary, again, you'll see where that $13 million is reflected in the budget for 2020. That's not reflected in 2021. So we're balanced at $80 million, $38,324. And you can see where we are budgeting balanced budget on the restricted funds as well. As in any government organization, as in most organizations, to be quite honest with you, personnel costs are the biggest segment of our expenditures. The number, the $32 million that's reflected here is the full cost of employment. It's not just salaries, it's our insurance, workers' comp, leave benefits, any other benefits that we are offering to the employee. This is the full cost of employment. Not as many new positions being requested this year as we have seen in a couple of previous years. A couple of new officers, one sworn, one not. There are a couple of reclassifications that are happening in the budget where we're elevating in some cases to reflect individuals and give individuals an opportunity to grow within the city. So elevating them, elevating those positions. You can review those. If you have particular questions, I'm happy to talk through what those positions are and what's being done with those. Capital projects, I do want to bring your attention to, on this page, this is page 11, for CRA, I have capital projects at $2,700,000. They're actually budgeted to spend $2,989,000. Excuse me, $2,958,000. Typo, I can't explain how I managed to get from 2.9 to 2.7, but they are spending the 2.9 million. This is a summary. If you'd like to see the complete list, you have two places that you can go to see the complete list. I forget, you can't see it. The page numbers are on the side, so you'll see the individual list. Or in the back of your package that I gave you, behind the questions slide, is the complete list of all of the capital projects that are being budgeted for in the 2020-2021 year. If you'd like for me to go through those, I will. If you have particular questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. I didn't think you wanted me to sit here and read them all out to you. That concludes my overview, and I am ready for questions, comments, recommendations.
All right. So what we need to do is, anybody up here have questions for the finance director before we start the process? We're going to start with the commissioners, let each commissioner that's gone through the budget, point out the things they want to talk about, discuss about. We'll do that in the rotation. So first of all, is there any questions of the finance director? Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start with Commissioner Oliver. We'll go around, and each commissioner bring out the points that you want to talk about in the budget book.
I haven't quite gotten all my notes together yet, so I'm gonna have to defer to now. I'll have to come back, because I have some notes that I haven't found yet.
All right, Commissioner Brinson.
I don't know if can everyone hear me? I have numerous questions, but I won't go over all of them at the same time. But I'm going to start on, this is going to be in the staffing plan, page 2 of the staffing plan. I just got a couple of questions.
Give the page numbers.
Oh, I didn't hear, okay.
Page 2. That's under the first tab.
Okay?
I'm looking here as far as the commissioner and the mayor. I see it's depicted here as full-time positions. Is that correct, or are they part-time positions? How are they classified?
They've always been classified here as full-time positions in the staffing plan. I'm not sure when that decision was taken to classify them as full-time. That would probably be a question maybe for Rob or for Mr. Williford. He was asking, are the commission and mayor positions considered full-time positions or part-time positions?
I don't think that question has ever been asked before. I'd say the answer is neither. There's 5 positions that are elected officials, and we certainly don't look at them as full-time or part-time employees from our purview. They've typically, do you have them showing in the staffing plan?
I have them
can't
showing
find my
as-
copy of the staffing plan here. It's probably up in my office, but.
I'm sorry, yes, it's being displayed, they're being displayed as full-time positions in the staffing plan.
Okay.
Okay, well, what's the significance between the two? Can anyone speak to that? I don't. Gene?
I'll try to, Commissioner Brinson, although it was done that way before I got here. My understanding is that because any position that has some city benefits, that they're classified as full-time versus part-time, which has no benefits at all. So
That was the reason, because of insurance.
that's my understanding, Mayor.
Okay, I'm not sure why that is, because there's many part-time positions in America that get benefits. So that's why I'm asking. Because normally, part-time and full-time is about the number of hours you get, not the number of benefits you get.
Right, and that was a policy decision before my time, so I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Because I don't know if there's, I don't know if we went and classified it as part-time, would that make any difference overall? That's the reason I ask. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I may be calling on you again, though.
Okay.
This is under page 3, under Support Services Administration. Down at the bottom, it reads, it looks like we get a new community event aid, is that right?
This is going to be a part-time position becoming full-time.
Okay, so it's not a new position, this making it a full-time.
It's
If
making
you look
it
at the
full.
bottom there, we're deleting a part-time position. We've had difficulty retaining people in that position at a part-time level. We've hired some good folks, and they've stayed 4 to 6 weeks before they got a full-time job and went someplace else. So this is spending a few dollars for retention. It also would be somebody who could help out when we had vacations or things of that type for the receptionist down on the first floor. So just from a matter of, we're going to spend those few $1,000s that is the difference between full-time and part-time, doing recruitments over and over again. So we want to do a better job with our events when we're able to start doing those again. This isn't somebody probably we're going to hire October 1st, but it is necessary, I think, and Gene may want to speak to that too, about the difficulty we've had retaining people in that position at a part-time level.
Okay. All right, the Chief Brown maybe Chief Brown and Gene may want to speak to this one. This is going to be on page 4 regarding the police department. This is going to be in regards to last year as opposed to this year. Last year, I think I counted up 99. This year, there's a 100 from the chief all the way down to patrol officers as far as manning. So you have spaces for 99 last year. Now we have 100. Is that right?
It's actually, it will be 100 last year and 101 this year. The number was off on the number you have, but that is our sworn amount. We're adding one position this year that is sworn. It'll be 101.
I still count 99. That's why I'm asking.
There is I believe, a typo in the personnel section there. It should be 100 and then 101.
And what position is being added?
One of the officers, I think that on that one that you have, I believe the sergeant is not shown for some reason. It
Yeah.
should have.
Well, I have eight. Last
What's
year
the
I had
number?
8 sergeants, and this year we have 7.
Right, it should have been, I believe, 8 sergeants. And next year will be 9, but that was,
Mr.
can
Brinson,
I
did
weigh
you
in on
get your
that?
replacement page?
Yeah, this is, are you looking at the replacement page?
There's a
There's
replacement.
page,
Oh, okay.
Page number 4.
thank you.
So it actually went from
Replacement page?
There it is.
7 to 10.
I think it's that one there.
Oh, this one.
Yeah. Personnel.
Let's look at the replacement.
Okay.
Oh, so it went from 8 to 10 sergeants.
Correct. So there was a typo on last year's, and then sergeants are being reclassed, 2 of them.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
And there is a net increase of 1 sworn officer.
Okay, so. Net increase of 1, okay. I'll have to circle back to that one.
Okay?
Okay, that's all I had,
Thank
Chief,
you.
thanks. Is fire here? Fire? Fire? Well, I have a question, and Gene, you may be able to answer this, or maybe the city manager. On the firefighters, the grants, that we had 12 firefighters that we had, but this year, are we losing, are we paying for those, or what? What's going on?
Typically, that just means the grant is over. Some of them were 3 years, sometimes they're 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Okay, now is that a grant that we're going after again, or are we on the hook for those 12 firefighters?
Yeah, typically it could be the SAFER grant. We apply for them each time, and I think that's why you'll see that the number hasn't changed, but we do maintain in the personnel system, we maintain it whether it's a grant position or not. So we identify them that way, and when the grant ends, typically we absorb them, but it's put that way so you know the general fund is now paying for something that the federal government was paying for before, typically.
See, and that's, when I look at this is what I see. Last year, we had 12 firefighters that we had by way of grant. This year, I have a 0 there. So,
Because we have
But they
moved-
show up in the line before it as firefighter. There's 12 more there. So, I mean, whatever way you want to
Okay.
look at it, it's just showing that it's not being funded by grant anymore. It's being, and we're having to fund that by general fund.
okay, so we may or may not go after that grant again.
Well, I would say we will, yeah, but I mean, we could be right. That grant, if it's showing up as 0 this year, that was probably a grant we got 3 years ago, because typically they're for 3 years. I think sometimes they're for 4. So usually by the 4th year, we have to absorb them and pay through the general fund for those.
Okay.
And I think if the commissioner remember, I believe that was the timing of starting the operation of transport when we added that number of additional personnel, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't know if we were going to be on the hook for those 12, or we're going to be able to secure more grant funding for that. Okay. One other question is, on page 6, what does .5 indicate?
Half a person. Typically, I can answer that. Typically, if there's one person in 2 different divisions or 2 different departments that have a revenue source to them, Commissioner, we allocate half of that person to the one revenue source and half of that person to the other revenue source. And one of them I can think about is like Parks and Rec, and I think we still do that. We carry them as individual departments or divisions, but the director would be funded from half parks and half recreation.
Yeah, that's very clear to see. If you look down under recreation, you can see the split, .5. There's a couple of .5s because they're split between rec and parks.
Right, and initially I thought that was the case, and then I turned the page and there it was again. I was like, okay, I got to ask this
Yeah,
question.
it's more important typically, Commissioner, when we have a manager or a director who's managing general fund divisions and enterprise fund divisions, so which we have typically in Public Works, and we'll have the stormwater fund, the solid waste fund, and the general fund with one manager who could be managing those 3 different programs. So you want the enterprise fund, and you want them to pay their fair share of that manager.
Okay. Last question, but I got a bunch more, but I'm going to give the floor up to someone else. On the next page, page 8, this one I was really scratching my head on, because under utilities administration, it looks like we're losing a lift station technician. It's that position or individual being picked up, or that responsibility being given to someone else? Or are we going to later in the year realize that we never got rid of that position? Because I don't see any other ones, lift station technicians on here.
If Jamie or Charles are here, they can give you a more precise.
Jean
answer.
may know. Do you know, Jean?
Jamie's here. There she is.
Did you hear my question?
I did, and as we're not losing any lift station technicians. As a matter of fact, we've just added one this year. We are losing a administrative position in our department, and we are adding a warehouse technician.
Jamie, I think part of the question is, why did that lift station technician show up under administration? And it looks like he probably took it out of administration, and it probably shows up somewhere else in some other division.
And we have done some reorganization. I think Becky can tell you that we have moved engineering and some other positions around that better fit the operations. So we did have some moving. We still have some people that show up in the wrong division, but they still are in utilities. So about the lift station technician, I can't answer for sure, but I suspect it's just showing in the wrong division.
That was what I was going to explain, is that with this reorganization, it looks like you lose a position here and gain one there. And I'm not able to point right now to where you put that new position, but Mr. Brinson, I'll come back and let you know for sure, because somewhere in my office, I have some very detailed work that tells me what that's for.
Okay. Yeah, because when I looked at, even on page 9, I looked at from last year, it was 2 lift station technicians. This year, there's 2, but on the previous page, on page 8, it showed where that lift station technician just disappeared. So that's why I was asking the question, because I don't think the assistant utility director wanted to run out to the lift station.
No, I'm pretty sure I don't.
that work.
And we do
I'm just
actually
saying.
have 2 lift station techs and a crew chief in that area.
Right, and I see that. Just, okay. And that's all for now, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Yes. After reading the budget, the questions I had were, 1 second. I did not see where contingency was in the budget?
The contingency is on, I'll tell you which page it's on.
Okay, because I couldn't find it.
Let me. I believe we're going to find it on page, I'm going to check page 60. It is under general government. It's not in commission. It's under general government.
So the only thing it would be,
I'm going to find it
would
for
be
you.
$30,000?
Give me one sec, ma'am. I will tell you precisely where to find it. I just got to find that page
That's community
number for you.
promotions. That usually incorporates other items, such as chamber and,
It is on page 83, I apologize. Under operating expenses, it is included in the line item that says reserve for contingency.
okay, let's see. What line item?
The line item is called reserve for contingency. It's 4900.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's usually when we're working here, we usually take money out of that, so.
Yes.
Okay. And the other one I did not see is, well, no, I think that's where it would come out of contingency, I'm sorry. No, I think those were the only questions I had at this point. The only question I had at this point. Okay.
Is that it right now?
I'm good right now, yes, I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Firstman.
I have a couple of questions. They're more or less just an explanation of what things are. On capital project section, page 17, $35,000 for new city hall tech-based training facility. What is that?
The design of the new city hall includes a facility for training that replaces what we use the the Emergency Operations Center at the fire department. You remember it was set up with the 12 computers and things of that type. That we're not doing that now at the EOC because people have their own tablets that they carry around all the time, and so they'll bring those to the EOC. So what we're wanting to do is to set up a separate room where we can have webinars, distance learning, training type of programs for people to learn. We used to do training, and in fact, we have people on staff who can do training now, and so this is to be able to restore that facility. Have a smart board. It'll have monitors. People will bring their tablets or laptop computers into the space, have the training, and leave. We're having to do this because this is considered equipment for the new city hall. So it's not part of the building expense.
Yeah. So
It's kind of like the broadcast equipment.
department?
Right, so this will be for everybody. It's just in ours because we'll be having to set it up because it's a IT kind of a thing.
Okay.
But it's a training facility for people to be able to take webinars and things of that type in a more structured manner than we can do right now.
Great, thank you. Same section, page 19, under the police, $30,000 for the boat with the trailer. You don't have to get up. Is that a replacement for the current boat? It is, okay. Same section, page 28, under stormwater operations. It has $1 million for master plan project improvements. Are they spelled out anywhere else, or what does that mean?
The same question.
Commissioner, that's for the downtown master planning. We also have, with the stormwater park that's gonna be developed, we've been designating $1 million towards it each year, to where when we start, we're hoping we don't have to go out and get a short-term loan, but if we do, that money will cover that.
Commissioner, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, when we were doing the bond, the first bond issue for the 45 or the $25 million, we wanted to fund the stormwater portion of it, which was $8 million. We thought we could fund internally, or year by year, pay as you go, so we wouldn't have to get an $8 million additional on the bond payment. So, looking at the number of projects we do in stormwater each year and the money that comes in, that's the $1 million of this year. We're trying to designate $1 million each year of the $8 million. So we didn't have to put it on a bond issue. We're just going to pay as you go on that.
Okay, that's great. All right, moving on, CIP, page 39. Annual museum exhibit display upgrade, support for rotating exhibits, $100,000 for the Withers McGuire. What is that?
And how did that slip through?
That is an unfunded project. It is,
That's unfunded. That was something that was
It
put
is
in there,
unfunded.
$25,000 a year, several years ago when we did the last upgrades to the Withers McGuire house, where we were gonna construct a museum upstairs. And that was put in on sort of a wish list item at $25,000. And that has sort of accumulated and rolled forward and on its own, you might say, through that process. But it was intended for us to be able to have some continuing operations there in the Withers McGuire house, not just simply, to have events there occasionally when people rented the facility.
and the 100,000 is the 5-year total. It's 25,000 that we anticipate a year, but it's unfunded at this time.
It's never been funded.
Okay. Next, page 40. Just wanted to know, what is the revenue that we get from the softball fields?
What is the revenue?
Yeah,
Commissioner?
what kind of revenue are we getting from that?
Mark?
Good evening, Commissioner. We just remodeled our softball fields, so right now, we've only had them open for a couple months, and with COVID, we haven't rented them at all. But when we start renting them, we'll be able to, whatever the hourly rate is.
But what do you project for the year, that those things will produce?
Well, I think this year we cut back our projection just because we don't see ourselves going full until at least another 6 months. Could, 25,000.
There's also the TNXL up at the Sorensen Fields, which is something else too. I don't know if you're referring to that or not, but what's the monthly rental we're getting?
That's about 43 a year.
43,000 a year for that on top of that too.
That's at Sorensen Park. So,
No, I was thinking of the ones that are out on
Big
the
Eddie?
Apopka, Ocoee.
That's not ours. That's not ours.
Those softball fields out
No,
there?
sir. Those girls club. Those not
that's
ours.
county, or
okay.
that's Nine County.
Okay, never mind then. I'll try to get through this fast. On the budget summary, page 48, just a question, Chief Brown. The impact fees for police department were incredible last year, and that seems to be out of the norm. What caused that? 1.2 million, where the rest of it is 390, 470.
Commissioner, that is a result of permits that are issued. A big jump will typically be when you have an apartment, because they are issued all 300 units at once, and they pay all those impact fees. We have not had an apartment complex. We've had a little slowdown in building, but that is totally directed by the number of permits issued for residential and non-residential.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you all.
Okay. We'll go back to page 2. I want to kind of weigh in on Commissioner Brinson's comment about full-time versus part-time mayor and commissioner, the description of the positions, elected officials. We've actually had some conversation about this before. There's been a little research done. I know the assistant city manager, Craig Shadrick, did some research at my request a couple of years ago concerning salaries, not benefits. So that's, before I even get started down this road here, I want to make sure that it is clear that I'm speaking specifically on salaries, not benefits. There is a complete difference between salaries and benefits. So now, I'm a person, I'm a very regimented kind of person, and I guess that's probably from my military background. And again, if I wanted to find a regulation on how to go out and park my car, I guarantee you I could probably find one in the military reg somewhere. So I'm very used to seeing things regimented. And the simple question that I asked a couple of years ago was, how are the salaries for the commissioners and the mayors structured? Where can I find that? Again, with any position in the city, from the police chief down to just a person just actually walking a beat, or a beat cop, or whatever, a patrol officer. I can find a description on their jobs, and I can also find out how we came up with their salaries based on just that. Unfortunately, for the commissioners and the mayor, we have not been able to, we have not been able to determine when, how a structure was set up for those salaries. There is nothing in writing that we have as to where a mayor gets paid X amount of dollars based on how many people in the city, or based on this, or based on that. It has to be based on something. So what I'm asking is there a possibility that we can, at this time, because I did ask earlier this year, and I was told that this would probably be the best venue to bring this up, as to get some solid research as to how can we go about coming up with a salary structure for mayors and commissioners. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go up, I'm not going to say it's going to go down, but regardless of whichever way it goes, at least we will have something in writing, and there will be some type of structure as to how we are compensating the mayors and the mayor and the commissioners. So I guess what I'm asking is, would this be the right time to at least start looking at that again, to come back with a recommendation as to, well, this is what we found as to other cities our size, and this is how they are paid, not benefits, just simple salaries. And again, regardless of whether it goes up or down, at least we have something in writing. So, so am I asking a question to the city manager, or that should it be to the finance director? Who should I be asking that question to as to how we go about getting that information?
Well, I think that question could come up either at a normal commission meeting or on one of the hearings, because you really can't take any action today here. This is just a discussion to show kind of the direction we're moving into. I think the problem with having staff do that is staff doesn't know which metrics that you want, or no matter which metrics that we chose to determine what that should be paid, I don't know that everyone's going to agree with that. So it's possible. I think there's probably consultants out there who have done this before. I mean, we have no one on staff who's ever done that before, and that could probably be done for, I don't know how much money they would charge for something like that, but if that's something the commission wanted to do, to have someone with experience who's done this before, and possibly for another city, to come up with some type of measurement system for, population or something like that as to what these positions should be paid, I'd recommend that you all come to a consensus at a. I'm sorry?
Can I make a comment? I would imagine that the League of Cities would have some kind of thing, but all cities, you got cities with all over the state of Florida, some cities zero, some cities get 20,000, some get 10, some get 5, some get nothing again.
Yeah, and that's part of it too, I think, also, Mayor, because it's the culture of the organization. There's some who have a big population who might be very low, and there's some small populations that might be very high. So
yeah, they were voted on here because when I first started, it was $100 a month, and somebody come up with during the maybe when we redid the what do you call it?
Charter.
Charter. somebody brought it up and it went up to a smaller amount. Then once again, it came up in, probably back in the late 90s or early 2000, that it went to a per diem, because you couldn't, you can't vote for yourself a raise, it has to wait. You vote now, it goes into the next cycle. But it was put in because of per diem. You can add the per diem. That's where that came from, where it could help cover some of the cost.
Right. So my suggestion is, if you do think, I mean, it's been the same for 20 years now, at least, I think, correct, Mayor?
Yes.
And if you all think that, you know, some slight to moderate increase is due, I think you should address that now. This is the time in
Right.
budget to be doing that. I don't know you're going to find any tried and true guidance out there from what other cities have done. There's just so many different things so many different ways you could look at it. So if that is something you want to do and you think that some increase is called for.
Well, that's not, I didn't say the word increase. I said procedure, some type of
Yeah,
measurement.
I
So
just don't know
again,
how you
I'm
pin
not
that
saying
down,
increase.
Commissioner.
What I'm saying is, Rob, is the fact that it may go down, and that's okay too. But at least we have some kind of measurement to show that we have something on record to state that this is how it's been done. Not 20 years ago, 30 years ago, somebody came up with a number and threw it against a wall, and then we just kept with what stuck. We can't operate like that anymore. We cannot continue to go down that path. We can't keep
I
kicking
don't
that
know
can
how
down
we
the
would
road.
do that
We
as
gotta have
staff.
something put
See,
down.
we do it with our positions here because typically we'll look at the years of experience someone has,
You have to do
their
all this.
education, how many, you know, how many years of city experience, how many years of private, you know, experience they have. And we just, it's kind of like crunching a formula. And we can look at the other cities and say, okay, this typical position for someone with 10 years experience pays between this amount and this amount in this geographic area. So it's kind of scientific, and I understand what you're saying. I think it's more subjective, though, as far as what that number would be.
Well, but we're not in Mayberry anymore, and we are in modern-day Ocoee. We have to be able to come up with something, regardless of how scientific it may be or how unscientific it may be. There has to be something. So again, if you want to throw some wet paper against the wall and say, hey, this is how we came up with it, well, at least put it on paper. We threw 10 pieces of wet paper against the wall. This is where it came out, and this is the procedure from how we did it. But there has to be some way that we have to be able to do this. So if we need to put a line item in the budget to state that we need to bring in a consultant to say, hey, this is how we came up with this, it'll stand from that point forward, and we would visit every 10 years, or every 15 years, every 20 years, but at least we have a starting point. Right now, we don't have a starting point. We got to have something put in our ordinance, our charter, to state that this is how we do things.
And I would recommend doing that. I think a consultant who maybe has more experience in doing that would get a better result than staff trying to do something, which we're really not equipped for. We've not done that before, and, you know, they're used to looking at certain skills and some type of experience and education and assigning a salary level to that.
Yeah. Okay, so what we need to do to add a line item there, we need to come back to the public hearing and bring that back to public hearing?
Yeah, at the public hearing,
Okay.
you know, if you could all talk about that now, we just can't really take any action on it right
Oh,
now.
okay.
There is records there where that was done in the ordinances or resolutions. They're in the records. Wasn't, no one didn't throw it on the wall. It was put out in a resolution or ordinance with salaries, and they did the increases.
They're gonna love us at home. Yeah, it's coming, it's gonna get there.
All right. Look at it.
All right.
So what do we decide to do on that?
Wait,
No.
he hadn't finished it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what direction we go. I mean, it seems like a hot potato kind of subject when it's just it's something as simple as.
The other thing I could
Right.
suggest is we could probably come back with the cost. I don't know that it would be that much for a consultant to do a quick study on that has done something like that before.
I'll talk about it when it gets to me.
All right, so that's that item there. All right. Let's see. I was looking for an item on reclaimed water. I couldn't find it. I'm looking for the budget item for reclaimed water. I have a neighborhood, Wellington Place, on 80 Mims, that are just shy of the reclaimed water. And I'm trying to find a budget item that will show, they've been promised this reclaimed water for about 20 years now or so, and it's come and gone.
They've been there that long?
Yeah, they've been there for a while.
I've been there 50 and I don't have it.
Well, they were promised about 20 years ago that they were going to get this reclaimed water. The line actually comes pretty close to the neighborhood, then it kind of veers off to another neighborhood. So I'm trying to figure out how we can actually look at getting a line item for the next, maybe the next budget cycle, or at least getting a line item added so we can actually talk about getting that reclaimed water to that resident, or to that neighborhood.
Which neighborhood is it? I apologize, I
It's
did not
actually-
hear.
The neighborhood is Wellington Place. It's on 80 Mims.
Wellington
Just shy-
Place,
Just,
it's actually on
east
our
of
schedule.
Ohio Shores.
Okay. Wellington Place is actually on our schedule. We have our reclaim schedule out till 2036, and this is based on St. John still providing grants to us to do the retrofits on reclaimed. But it is in year, and I apologize, this is very small print, but 2024 is when they are set to get reclaimed. We have 2 neighborhoods before them, and we are currently getting ready to start. I have totally gone blank on the name of the neighborhood, but we have a neighborhood that will be starting this year, which is in Commissioner Wilson's district.
Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember we had talked about this, or I talked about this with Charles after Commissioner Oliver brought this up to me the first time. Do you know, or can you tell from what you have in front of you, does the Reclaim Main actually pass in front? I thought part of the issue with that it was pushed out for 3 years was because the main did not cross in front of that subdivision yet. It was short, and it was down 80 Mims some ways, and the main has to be expanded, to be extended before.
It does, and that's actually scheduled before it, which is the 80 Mims Ohio Shores Road Transmission Extension, which is also scheduled in the same year, 2024. So both those projects will go together, and they are over $1 million to do both of them.
So
Mr. Oliver, page 44.
Okay. Oh, yeah, one other comment. Is there any way we can print this a little larger?
Thank you.
I got my glasses on, I can still barely see this thing here. So if we can print this a little
I
larger.
thought it was just me.
The next printout, because, oh my goodness, I can barely see this with my glasses on. So on page 44,
Next to the last 2 lines.
here it is, that's it. Okay, yes, it's an ink blot. All right, good. At least we actually have it on the budget, and that was my main concern, to make sure it actually showed up on the budget for some.
Commissioner, I remember having this discussion with you, and I actually did have it with Charles, too, and I was surprised because I couldn't remember what the resolution was when we did that, since the line needs to be extended down 80 Mims, but I think originally it was 26, 27, so I think through Charles's magic and what Jamie did, I think we got it pushed up 2 years anyways.
Has the sidewalk on Ingram Road made it to the budget yet? I know that's a.
Well, there's
fairly new
2
one.
things now on Ingram Road. So we've gotten different direction, and we just don't have money to do it all. So I would suggest, we had talked about streetlights on Ingram Road, and we're talking about sidewalk on Ingram Road. And I don't know that we have enough money to do them both this year. If there's something you guys, if you all would want to do one of those projects this year and one of those projects next year, I think we could swing that, but we're probably talking to do them both around $250,000. And if there's,
Streetlights are like 70,000, I just went over that with you.
yeah,
Sidewalks ain't cheap either, so.
they're both about the same price,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, they're pretty
Yeah,
expensive
actually,
items.
well, we looked at sidewalk on the west side, and the west side was a lot more expensive, but if we did a sidewalk on the east side, it'd probably be about 75. So about 75 for sidewalk, about 70 for streetlights.
I mean, they're both safety
Right.
items, safety items for that road, again, because people walked up and down that road now that the build-outs are done over there, and people are walking up and down that road all the time. So I'm not sure if the sidewalks should come first or the lights. It's like the chicken or the egg. So what we're going to do? I see the need for the sidewalk. I see a big need for the sidewalk because the people, day and night, they're walking and jogging and up and down that road, especially at night, and there's no lighting. So do you put the sidewalk first, or do we put the lighting first? So I guess this is a decision that we would probably have to come to some kind of consensus to, some type of consensus to what direction.
And the other issues typically, the streetlights, the sidewalks, and the other big one are the speed tables that everybody always wants that are, and I think, what do we do? We have like $50,000 in for speed tables right now. Typically, we'll get requests for 8 different locations throughout the city. Typically, our code requires we do some type of traffic study to see if actually cars are speeding, and we find a lot of times that the requested neighborhood does not have traffic speed. It seems like it, but it's not when we do the test. And then on top of that, we require, I think, 60% of the residents to agree to them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, you might have 8 requests, but usually like 3 end up, being justified, and you can get the residents to sign off and get to 60%. So we do have, I think, $50,000 in for speed tables also.
Yes, we do.
So let me ask this question about the Ingram Road. If we were to put a sidewalk in, is there any way to put any temporary lighting until we come with more permanent lighting fixtures for at least 12 months? Is there any ways to do anything like that?
I don't know, there'd be a big savings on that. Steve, I don't think that's ever come up before. They're still going to have to put some type of poles in. There's still going to be some type of electrical connections.
Part of the issue with adding Ingram lighting, originally they gave us a quote as if they could put the lighting on the existing poles, but it's either because of the pole location or the amount of equipment already on the poles, they have to install new poles. So they're basically running a new line either way, and that's why the cost bumped up to $70,000. So temporary or new, about the same cost.
Okay. So I'm only thinking about safety. If we install sidewalks without lights, anyway, we could use reflectors, something to say that as a car coming down the street, they can see the reflector, and then as they get to it, they see a person walking on the sidewalk. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just coming up with any solution that would.
What I would
possible.
suggest, Commissioner, and not knowing what other requests y'all might have in next year's budget, if, once we hear everything, we could probably try to work some of that and see if we can do that with keeping the millage rate as to what we're recommending right now. It's hard to say right now that we can do it, and then we get a request for $250,000 and something else, and we say, well, if we continue and we do the street lights and the sidewalk, then we can't do this. But once we hear everybody's request, then I think we have a good idea of some of the stuff that we can do, or what it would cost above the current millage rate and to do everything that you're all asking.
When you say everyone's request, are you mean like staff or?
For tonight, yeah.
Oh.
The idea is tonight, as we talk, and say,
Okay. I mean, other
has this
commissions
been put in
went,
the budget?
I'm the last one. We already went through these guys. They asked for what they want to ask for. I'm asking what I need.
I'm gonna ask for more.
I'm asking for what
Yeah,
what
so all
my
I'm
district
saying
needs.
is, until we hear everything,
But,
we don't know what that cost would be, or what that would raise the millage rate.
Well, I would like to request that we would consider putting sidewalks on Ingram Road
Okay.
in this year's budget. for obvious safety reasons, and then maybe work with either some kind of reflective light or something to deal with the lighting issue until next budget. Or
Okay.
even, at least add, how about just getting the lighting added on the budget for next fiscal year or whenever we can afford to get those lights added on Ingram Road. It is,
Got it.
it is a serious issue. It's a very dangerous road to be walking up and down at night. It's just dark. Can't see anything. All right. Again, the speed tables, you said we do have some money set aside for speed tables. There's 2 residents.
Yeah, we found, so we'll put that money in there, and as they come in and they get justified or rejected based on the traffic study, and then if they pass the traffic study and the city, and the commission wants to go forward with it, then the next thing we do is we have the neighborhood do the survey to see if they get to 60%, and if they do that, we proceed from there.
Yeah, I had Bryn Mawr subdivision as well as Prairie Lake subdivision. And I've spoken to residents in both those subdivisions, and this is probably going on year 2 that they've asked me for the same thing. It's always been speed tables, so I'm asking about that again. All right, Waterside, Jesus. Yeah, almost forgot about Waterside. They're another neighborhood that's dealing with speeding. We have traffic or stop signs. There's a total of, if you go down in the middle of Waterside, Jesus, I forgot the name of the street. But coming in the middle of Waterside, the actual main road coming in, there's 3 stop signs in Waterside. And they blow through them all the time. I think I've had conversation with the chief about that through the years. We've had police officers come through, and they've been ticketing people coming down New Victor Road. I'm sorry, yeah, New Victor Road, and they've asked about speed tables as well, which is very problematic as far as speeding and kids walking up and down the street.
Yeah, I think the issue is if we do the study and the study supports it and the neighbors support it, I think in the past, Commissioner, even if we didn't have those dollars in the account, we found them somewhere because so few of them typically do meet the requirements for the speed study. So when we see that there's an issue there and the neighbors want them, we usually try to find the dollars to do that as a safety issue.
Okay. All right. Let's see, make sure I'm going on my list here. I'm not going to go over everything, but just a few more items. Page 18 of the budget, there is a $60,000 line item for the recording studio roof.
That was my question, yeah.
I was under the impression that this recording studio is probably going to be eventually torn down, and I'm trying to figure out why we're putting a roof on something we're going to tear down.
Yeah,
You know what?
No, that's what.
I was not happy when I saw $60,000 for a recording studio roof either, Commissioner.
I had a question, that was on my list here that I.
Would you like to address that, Commissioner Wilson?
No, I would like,
Let's get through you, then
I'd like, to no, it's a question that affects the whole city, it's money that we're spending, totally. But yeah, please, feel free, it was on my list.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Do you want to tell us, Steve, what?
It needs a new roof. That's all I can say. It's 60, and that's the price.
When we went over the thing about it, we all understand it was a 5-year deal.
Yeah. How many years have we had that now?
1,
No. Seems like it's been a long time.
unless somebody comes along, offers to build us a nice restaurant on the water.
They'll have a good roof.
Yeah. Well, no, they'll put a new building.
The $60,000 is hard to swallow, but just keep in mind, we ended up getting that building for half the original cost that they wanted to sell it to us about 8 years ago. So it's a much better deal than.
Doesn't make you feel any better, but.
Is that putting the same kind of stuff back on it, tile? Why can't we just put something else?
Like a tarp.
There are some options. From what we gather, the $60,000 was to replace the roof in kind. We're also looking at, is there a benefit going with a metal roof or just an asphalt shingle
Yeah.
roof? But yeah, the idea
Let's
is,
look at all three prices.
we
Because
are.
there is some people looking at making, offer to do some, like, facilities like out there with a restaurant and that kind of stuff. So that
Yeah,
might
I
be-
think me and Steve had that discussion already, find something cheaper, so.
Yeah,
Well, we got 4 years left on it then, so
Yeah.
I guess they don't want something leaking.
So it's scheduled to be torn down in next?
We don't
4
have a
years?
schedule to tear it down, Commissioner. Part of the deal that we got was to let him stay in there.
Oh.
And so I
for
think
5
we're in,
years.
I think we're in the second year of 5 years. So once,
Oh, okay.
then he clears out, and then we decide what we want to do with it.
And since we own it and he's occupying it, it is our responsibility to
Yeah,
maintain
any
it
capital
and
improvements we
maintenance.
pay for, any maintenance type improvements he pays for.
And that was per contract?
Yes.
The contract.
Typical, I forget what they call those, but typical lease where capital items are paid for by the owner.
Okay. On page 24, street operations, third line item from the top, $216,000 waterside division, which I'm not gonna question it, I'm not even gonna even touch it. But I'm just wondering, while we're paving the streets in waterside, can we just incorporate the speed tables at the same time? Would that be something that might be able to save some money on resources or?
They're two totally separate operations. One, you wouldn't want to put a speed table on a road we're going to resurface, because then we'd have to take it up. And a speed table is a specialty item. They're going between $8,000 and $10,000 a piece. They're not cheap, and it's a totally separate contract we'd issue it on. So it's all labor intensive. They're very labor intensive. You know, and they are designed so that a fire truck or an emergency vehicle can go over them at 25 miles an hour. It's
I think-
not just.
I think part of it too is the companies that do them have to have quite a bit of liability insurance too. And I've been asking this question for years, and I think when we first started using third-party companies to put these in, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, they were running us about $7,500 each, and I couldn't believe the price then. But yeah, they're pricey, and my personal view is I think it's the liability insurance some of these companies that put them in have to carry, because people do get hurt when they go over them too quickly.
Well, I can understand the insurance aspect, but I've seen rubber speed tables, I've seen plastic speed tables.
Yeah, we've
I've been
tried
in
them.
neighborhoods and
We've
I've
tried
seen
them.
different speed tables that seem to get the job done. Again, I'm not sure if they spent $10,000 or not, but I've seen them where I just look at this speed table and I'm like, how could they spend $10,000 on something like that? But it did get the job done. So,
We did use
I
for
picked up a
years.
magazine once. It was about this thick. It has construction materials in it, and there were speed tables in that magazine. And again, I guess they sell by bulk. So
There's different ones we did use for a while when we were getting the $7,500 cost for asphalt. We used a prefabricated recycled rubber speed table that was identical to what we built in asphalt, and they lasted about 5 years. We've had to take every one of them out. They just don't have the durability.
do we have any speed tables in any districts right now? Any neighborhoods right now? There's none in my district. I don't have any speed tables at all in any of the neighborhoods in my district at all. How about the other districts?
I
I'm just
believe there's
curious.
some in the Sawmill. Is the Sawmill at the entrance of Sawmill?
Sawmill.
If you
Yeah,
come in on-
you know, that's
there's a
right.
couple
You're
there.
absolutely right. They're there. They've
And
been there
we've
for
done-
about 5 or 6 years now.
It's been quite a while. They were
Yeah.
probably the last ones we installed. And we've done a few, we've done a lot of traffic studies when we had the open house meeting for your district. Some of the people had mentioned they wanted some speed tables. Majestic Elm was one of them, or traffic calming. We did some traffic studies there. It didn't qualify. But we haven't had many requests up in your district. If people are asking you about it, if they would.
Well, they're asking me, so.
Well, I'll get you the form they can fill out and submit it, and we'll
Okay.
do attest on. We can do
I
a
actually have
traffic study.
one community that is interested in helping foot the bill. Their HOA is interested in helping to foot the bill for speed tables. So if that may be something that we would consider, perhaps that's something we can get together and say, well, if this community is willing to put in X amount of dollars, can the city match that to put in speed tables in their neighborhood?
We've pretty much addressed it. We've had other subdivisions come in and say that too. The previous administration's pretty much said if it meets the requirements, fine, because we have a very liberal traffic calming policy, and we just haven't had that many locations qualify.
Okay. All right, well, I'll get with the contacts from the neighborhoods and let them know that we act. Now, so you actually will have to go and do a traffic survey in those neighborhoods, right?
Yes,
I'll get the neighborhoods over to you, and we can go from there.
thanks.
Thank you.
May I just add about the rubber traffic calming devices? If you ever were in front of one of them, you would really have pity for the person who lives near them, because it's a thumping constantly when a car goes over, and it's not the thumping that you get from a normal speed bump. It was not good. I had a couple of them in my district, and they were horrible.
Okay. We have, oh, sorry. On page 29 of the budget, CRA, and I believe you have already addressed this, and I just can't remember where you addressed it at. There was a $50,000 miscellaneous projects not defined. I think you mentioned something about you have defined all the projects somewhere. Was it in the presentation that you gave? You did mention it, I just can't find it. I was just trying to find out where that line item was, where there was information that covered that line item.
Mr. Oliver, we're put in a little bit, and Rob, you can maybe help me with this, but we're put in a little bit of a conundrum with CRA in that this budget has not been put forward to the CRA board yet. So since the full board of the CRA is not present today, it's difficult for me to answer specifics about the CRA budget.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So you're keeping, I mean, that's basically in abeyance, because if the CRA board wants to add additional projects in, then that are undefined at this point, we're just keeping some money, kind of like a contingency account.
Okay, so just setting money aside for anything that comes up as opposed to.
From the CRA board, which would be
amending our budget
the commission
down the road
plus
to
two.
state that we need more money to do this, that, or
Correct.
the other. Okay, all right. I just want to know about that. Okay, thanks. The other items, I wasn't gonna ask about this, but I think it's great if this is about to happen. There's a cleanup for the police officers' gun range, in construction of a new gun range. Is that real? That gonna
I
happen?
think that's unfunded.
Is it unfunded?
Who knows?
Yes, it's unfunded. Until you got 21, 22, there's some money set out there.
So that's probably the first year, I think. It's something we need to do. I just don't remember it being in next year's budget. It might be, if it's in 21, 22, then,
What that will represent is the amount that we think that we would need in 21, 22, but it is yet to be funded.
Funded,
So
okay.
we don't have a funding source.
It's a projection.
It's a projection.
Okay. Well, it's a good projection. I hope that it will come to fruition one of these budget cycles. Also, what is the Rogers property on page 40? There's acquisition of additional property, Rogers property. What exactly is that?
Haunted house.
It just says Rogers. You got Rogers, and then you have Rogers property.
It's
And what year does
acquisition
that show?
of the
We'll
property
just-
next door, correct?
It was put the softball wheel in there. It's not, the property's not wide enough. So
okay, but it's for the future. Yeah, so basically, if you look at that property, it's like a backward C, and we've just identified in the future that if some of those properties become available, that would be, if they become for sale, it'd be
If they
time to
come for
buy them.
sale.
Just because it's very narrow in the middle from north to south, so there are some owners in there who weren't really wanting to sell at this point, but we're thinking if some point in the future they want to sell. If we could pick up another 10 acres in there, then from the plan that we had done several years ago, it was tight, and if we could just probably get another 5 to 10 acres, that would help a lot in there before we develop that property.
Okay, and page 41, there's 2 line items. You have the 4 lanes for Clark Road. You have 2, it's listed in 2 locations. Is it been broken up? Like you have the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, 3, the 3rd line item down from the top, there was $100,000 for the Clark Road project. And then, if you look, the 2nd item from the bottom, you have the Clark Road, A.D. Mims, Claricona, Ocoee Road, and that's a 2-lane highway widening. And that's actually $3.8 million. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it 2, are you breaking up the road into 2 different projects, or is one different engineering?
My intent was, the development agreement currently has from Claricona to Orchard Park. And then, so we wanted to keep that as an option, but the priority being the full widening, the full 3 million for the full widening. So if the full widening did not get approved, put in, then we could use the Claricona to Orchard segment.
Okay.
Because it does provide a benefit as well.
So it's kind of like 2 projects. Is
It's,
that?
if the full Clark, then the minor one goes away. But if
Okay.
we can't get it done, then there's this option there. So we
Okay,
want to keep it in
awesome.
front of us.
Awesome, thank you. And my last item, I got more items, but this is the last one, I promise, this is the last one I want to bring up. I'm looking for a budget item to add in annual infrastructure mailers like we did this past year, either through our water bill or some other means that we can actually inform and educate our citizens about infrastructure and projects, road projects we got going on throughout the city, so.
Yeah, I think when we did the last one, everybody liked what we sent out, and I think actually that was an oversight that wasn't put in, but we can find some amount of money to put in for that. From the comments we got from the commission and the mayor, everybody thought that was something that was very good to send out, and if there's a consensus on that, we can make sure there's some money in to do something like that yearly.
I think it was a general situation to where you put out something regarding all of the districts. It
Correct.
wasn't just something going out for one district, it was something going out representing all the districts that went out on the water bill, correct?
I can't remember if
I
it went
mean,
out, did it
sending
go out
out
with the water
something-
bill?
It went out in the water bill, yes.
Yeah.
Something out, sending something out individually would not fall under that, but if you want
Right.
something sent out, I think we decided that it would go through the aspect of, in the water bill
Yeah.
regarding all the districts, or an update of what's going on in the city.
And
Not of-
that's-
not something that was from each commissioner, it was a.
Correct, that's what we were thinking, something like we've done in the
Yeah,
past.
that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for a line
So-
item that
so we
we
can
can
make
actually do
sure
the
that's
same
in
thing
there.
we did this past year.
Yep.
I just didn't see a budget, a line item in the budget that would actually compensate or that would budget
take
that
care of that.
item. Okay, so again, that's something we want to do again this year, the same way we did it last year, for all the districts. Okay? That's all I have.
All right. Back over some of the stuff. I went through everyone. I've been on vacation this week, so my wife was laying by the pool. I was going back through the budget book again. I don't have no problems. I want to say that it's a great job. It's laid out in the budgets. And when you can come with the year we've had and come up with the budget projections for the millage rate, I think it's great. I think everything's in the employees that are, all of us, all the employees have worked hard to get where we're at and get through this time of need. But I think there's a lot of things in there that we all need in the city. I think we can look at different things. Like I said, I've went through, I marked up some things, but there's things that I went back and looked up and seen what we were doing with it, so that was fine with me. The only one I asked Mike, I think about it today, was the $2 million Crown Point roundabout or something like that. That was the only one I was kind of asking the question about. Mike, did you ever, we can get with that later. I don't want to dig that out. We done spent too much time on those stuff, so. The salaries, I will say, I've been here since 34 years. I started at $100 a month. There is paperwork. It went through the council, went through the votes, everything else like everything does. I didn't see nobody here throwing it on the wall, but everybody voted on it. It was voted on to do the raises when they did it. It was voted on to do the per diem. That was Ellis Shapiro. That was back a long time ago. So all that stuff's there. So if you want to change the salaries, what you got to do is you vote on it and you bring it up to the next election. You cannot put your raise in for yourself. And I will personally tell you that I'm going to be here for 2 more years and 7 months, if good Lord willing, and I'm not voting to change it. I won't vote to change it. I've had citizens, and I know all of y'all go to the League of Cities now, the National League of Cities, and the regular League of Cities, they have those salaries. You can go to Winter Garden, you can go to Popka, you can go anywhere and check salaries. And I think we've done that, Craig, right? We've got a list of all the cities. Every city is up to each individual city, no matter what their size, to come up with how much money they want to pay out to the commissioners. You vote on it. So it's all going to come down to the 5 of you sitting up here to vote on if you want to raise your
And
salary.
that was my point, Mayor. Yeah, it's hard to nail it down because each city's going to be completely different than the one next door.
You got
to
a city that's 100,000, they don't make anything. Seminole over on Tampa, they don't make anything. Then you got a guy down in Miami Beach Lakes, they make $50,000 a year. So, and it's all about, no matter the size, it's about what 5 people or 6 or 7, if it's 7 of you, vote on to do it. And like I said, we have to vote and get a consensus if we want to put it on there. Then if you really want to do it right, put it on the ballot come March and ask the citizens. But I personally won't be out backing that. I'm not doing it. Like I said, I do count the benefits as part of my salary.
You keep mentioning the word raise. I'm not talking about a raise.
Well,
I'm not talking about raising salaries.
Let me ask you something.
I'm only talking about procedures.
Yeah.
That's all. So,
well, I told you.
Don't add words to what I'm saying.
I didn't add any words,
Yes,
Commissioner.
you are. You're adding words to what I'm
You
saying,
do the same
but
thing.
that's not what I'm saying.
You
So I didn't
filibuster
say
every
anything
time
about
we
a raise.
start. Sir, it is my time.
I'm sorry.
It's
Go right
your
ahead.
Democrat
Take your
say,
time. I
will
apologize. Go ahead.
Take my time back. It's not a filibuster. I'm telling you, the filibuster is you can't do it. If you want to do it, then get a consensus from everybody up here and we'll do it. It has nothing to do about making a record of it. If you're going to do it, it's going to have to be a record. And that's why I said, if you want to do it by the law, put it out on the ballot and ask the citizens about the raise. If not, you get a consensus from the 5 people up here. If the people up here want to do it, then you vote for it and put a resolution of what you want to do with the salary. That's how that works. There's no other way to do it. But it's all cities are different. None of them pay the same stuff. None of them pay the same salary. None of them. A lot of them don't pay any. So that's up to you. But I will say, I'm talking about a raise, I'm talking about what it is, salary. We got a per diem, we have a salary, and we got benefits. The benefits count money towards what we do. Whether you look at it or not, it's money. We have to spend it. Rogers Park. We bought Rogers Park we got 33 acres for $1.2 million, Rob, or $1.1 million, which is a great buy. And it was made for a central park, or like a big park with tennis courts, softball fields, all that kind of stuff. But we've never funded any money to do it. We've got impact fee money for that stuff we could do. And I'll say something about the softball things. You can make more money off softball than any other thing in these things that we do here. And in the years that we used to have softball, they were the only ones that paid us the right kind of money to run and do the programs. So there's these schools now and these youth organizations running all these programs that'll pay tons of money to come here and play in these leagues every week. But that's a different story. But I'm ready to move on with the budget. Like I said, I like what we got. There's a little money in there to do stuff with. The budget, the paving's been laid out to do in the areas. I seen that again the other day, Steve, on the budget process. I signed some papers for that. So, anybody, where's the, you didn't do that list, did you?
The wish list?
Yeah, the wish
I-
list.
I think, you
I
know,
don't-
we've
I don't think
we've
we
done it
need it.
before.
I don't think
and
we
it's
need
come- You know, sometimes it's a good thing to have, sometimes it's not a good thing to have. I think the difference this year is, I think most of the things that the department heads, you know, we kind of said, one of the things in the beginning, we're going to be losing some sales tax dollars, we're going to be losing some communication services dollars. So please just tell us what you need to operate. And
If you go back through the book and look at the permits, look at the impact fees and all that, all the way through here and look at the different things that are really the matter with us, our impact fees are good. We're still building houses all up on the north side, and our permits are good. So I think with what we've got in our general fund and what we have in our reserve, we're in good shape. For a lot of cities, it's not that way, but y'all have done a great job with it. Not trying to pat you a little bit, but y'all have done a great job with the budget, and employees have too.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we've not had to lay anybody off.
Yeah.
You know, we've not had to hire a bunch of people, so we're doing good with that. So that's, to me, y'all have done a great job. Well, this city, I'm proud to say, to tell people, and I've told a few of them that I deal with over at the National League and the rest of them, they need to come take a peek at what goes on and see what happens with our city and what we do. All right. So we've got a 5.15,
Correct.
and so we can, I don't know, Rob was gonna look at something else on the, what was you gonna check into? Something about the, what, not speed bumps, there was something else you asked about.
Ingram sidewalks
Ingram
and lighting.
Sidewalk. And I've been working with, Steve was out on vacation, I got with Richard, and we're checking on the lights, because we're trying to do the lights on Ingram and the end of McGuire. But the other thing is, Ingram is not all ours. Some of that's the county. So we need to get the county to pony up. Because a lot of that stuff, when you first turn on Ingram to the right, is all county. Down
Yeah,
to
and
Gas Orange Park.
we know what happens typically. That adds 3 years to
Oh, I
the
know.
project, getting them
Yeah,
to
I
pay
know.
their share of those, so.
I know, but that's, just to tell you, that's Ingram is county too, not just us. Okay, I'm not gonna take up any more. Like I said, I went through it, like I said, I went back and looked at the old one and went back through the front, this one, so I'm happy with it.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
We already heard that we have a high unemployment rate in Ocoee. We need.
okay. you
I'm
moved
sorry,
on.
okay, I'll take it off, even though I don't want to. We have a high unemployment rate in Ocoee. You said it was 15.1.
0.1.
We, as commissioners, have a responsibility to make sure that we tighten our own belts here. This is not, you know, we can't ask our residents who aren't working to, as we continue to put as a wish list, things in the budget. And I think we ourselves have to have a responsibility to tighten our budget and realize that we're very fortunate. We have not laid anyone off.
Yep.
We've heard of, I think it was another county had downsized one of their departments because they weren't getting the revenue in. We've been very fortunate that we haven't had to do that, and we don't want to do it. And I think we as commissioners have a responsibility to look at that and to make sure that we adhere to the budget that we've set and that we have to curb a lot of our wish list. This is a tough time right now. Until the economy builds back up, when we've had a good economy, we've been able to do a lot of things. But until then, we have to tighten our belts. And for whatever we want, there's a lot of things that we all want, but we have to go ahead and look at what is needed versus what we want. And as for, I'm just going to make a comment about the salary. For whatever reason, the salaries were set. We live with that, and I will just tell you, I've made it very clear in comments during the meetings that I have no intentions of changing that. I feel as though when I ran for this office, I bargained for it. And for whatever reason, they said it years ago, we live with it. And the only way I would consider any change is it has to go before to a referendum, because I think our residents feel very strongly about our salaries and what we're paid. So, and I have no problems with that right now. Thank you.
All right.
Let me weigh in on that as well. I agree. Our residents do feel very strongly about the salaries that we're paid. And I'm not I have a lot of residents says, you guys get paid what? because they can't believe that we do all this work, and we're responsible for voting on millions and millions and millions of dollars every time we meet, and they don't pay very well. Now, as far as what the salary is or what the payment is, that is what it is. But everyone in here, I believe, who works has gotten a pay raise and didn't turn it down at their job. But when I look at this budget, I'm looking at almost a 6% pay raise increase, salary increase in this budget for our professional staff. Almost 6%. Does anyone else not see that? 'Cause
I see
see
3%. 3%.
I don't see 3%. I'm
See
looking
that?
at it.
Commissioner, the multiplier, we have a 3% in for general employees. There's,
I'm looking at executive salaries.
there was 3% across the board.
Okay,
I'm not sure where you're seeing 6%, but
We've never
everybody's.
went
it's the same.
above the same.
Correct.
Right, what I'm looking at last year, 2020, the budget was for this particular one, this particular category, 438,546. That's on page 63. And then for the proposed or tentative budget is 464,676. That's what I'm looking at. I don't know if anyone else is looking at that.
If I ask the finance, can you tell me, within that budget process, is it not 3% across the board?
It is 3% across the board, and I will look at this, I have that file open.
What page?
We're
That was
looking at
a-
page
for the-
63.
Did we not, there's another thing, Commissioner, did we not fix it where if they're maxed out on a certain thing too, that was on the, it goes, what is it, Rob? Huh? It's topped out, yeah. Something, I can't remember, you gotta go back and look, that's on paper too.
Well, what is
Mr.
this
Brinson,
figure?
one of the other things that's budgeted for in that line that we often don't have to use is once an employee has so many leave hours on the books, we budget to pay them out because at certain levels, you're eligible to sell back some of your leave time. So
PTO.
I put into the budget to pay out those individuals who may request selling their leave back. And some of our long-term employees have quite a bit of PTO time that's eligible for buyout. So while this line, and I'm not seeing it immediately in my spreadsheet, there's likely, since we have a couple of long-term employees in there, some PTO buyout money that's being budgeted for that may not be used. That's one of the things that affects that salaries line item.
Right now, is that, generally speaking, is that how these budgets, because I've never seen that not being a line item, the PTO piece.
Generally speaking, it's paid for out of the salaries line.
Okay, so,
In addition, Commissioner, when we do have some employees that are anticipated to retire, and so I know that that the finance department included their final PTO payout in those, in some of those numbers also.
okay, so this year, the raise was what, percentage-wise?
3%
Across the board?
across the board, with the exception of one of your bargaining units, and that was slightly more. But that's by contract,
Okay, that's collective bargaining.
collective bargaining,
That was
yes.
police?
Fire and police.
Fi-
Fire's the one we're dealing with right now, right?
Right. It's police. We're negotiating the fire contract still.
Okay. And
Well, I'll make this comment. While we are talking about the money and salaries, to me, of course, now it's not as much important to me now as it was when I had 5 kids at home and all that stuff, but the salary rate, they did here, I think, is a good thing because employees pay for that benefit of the insurance. We don't. That's why it's part of what our benefits to me is. It's part of my money. I don't have to pay for it. Your insurance is free with the city. Theirs is not. What is it? Families.
250, Mayor. 250 a month.
We not. So that's, I count that, because that's money. No matter how you look at it, it's money.
Well, I agree it's money,
Yeah,
but
you know.
it's a part of the compensation package. It's
Well,
not, you know.
yeah, it figures
so-
up to what you total out, because I know that the salaries, it shows the salary, the base salary, and then it shows the benefits that go with it, you know.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right, and I understand that piece. I'm just saying that, and I understand everyone's position, saying, hey, I signed up for this, I ran for this, I got elected for this, and I knew I was getting, signing up for it going in. Well, I didn't, because I didn't really care, because I didn't find out until probably three or 4 months after I was in office what I actually got paid, because I said, do we actually get paid? What is it? And I actually went to HR, and they told me, and I still got the little Post-it note, because when I looked at, this was set in 1996, I was like, well,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to me. That makes absolutely zero sense to me, because this is 2020. However, I understand everyone's position, but I do think that we should have something in writing. We need to have something in writing for anyone that gets paid, anyone that's being paid by tax dollars. We need to figure out how do we get to that amount, regardless of whether we pay what we pay them. How do we get to the amount that we're paying them? I think that's what the commissioner on the other end, Commissioner Oliver, was asking for.
It's in the paper, it's in the minutes of this city, how we get paid.
Okay, well,
How we get paid is in the minutes of the city.
okay, well, city manager, can we dig through the city minutes and find that and present that to the board for?
Yeah, Mayor, are you saying it's in the resolution, there's a formula, or was it in the minutes when it was talked about in 1996 that there
It was brought
was?
before the commission back in the 90s, when it went from 100 up to the 400 or whatever it was. And then one other time it went before, it only had to be done in come on the agenda for it. You can do per diems without having to go be a
Right.
vote, and not have to go before the whole city or whatever. You don't have to wait.
So is the logic, or is he saying the logic for the per diem was discussed in those minutes?
Was
or
when they
or
wanted to,
what
it
that
was to
number
get
would
more
be?
money. Back in that days, a couple of commissioners wanted more money, so they didn't want to wait till they went through the part of going through the, getting it.
I mean, we can research and see what we can
It's there.
find from
It's
the
in the
early
records.
90s and 96 and,
All right.
and look at the minutes
there
and see if there was some
Right,
discussion
because
on that.
even then, even way back whenever these commissioners said, they even realized we're responsible for too much to be paid at that rate. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And if there's another city or municipality in the state of Florida or in the United States that not paying their commissioners anything, that's their business.
Yeah, that's what.
This is our business, and we are growing way too fast and have way too much responsibility on our plate. And really, probably not gonna change anyone's tax bracket if they pay us more here, truth be told. But we have a lot of things that we're responsible for, a lot, we knew that coming in. However, everyone here who gets a pay raise takes that pay raise. So don't stop acting like we don't take pay raises, because we do, except for this commission.
Well, they're on a 40
I don't
hour,
understand
they're on
that.
a regular work schedule for us. They're,
Well, again, it's just a matter of procedures. We talked about logics, and I know the assistant city manager, Craig Shadrick, actually did the research for me a couple of years ago, and he actually even got on the phone and started calling some of the prior city managers, asking them about what they remembered, because there was no record. There is no logic. I mean, you can give yourself a raise and put it on a ordinance. You can put it in a charter. You can do all these things. You can say the city manager gets paid this, the city mayor gets paid this. That's fine. It's okay. But only thing I'm saying is, what is the matrix and the logic that came up with those numbers? Now, I'm not saying those numbers need to slide. When we come up with whatever logic we come up with, we can agree to keep it the same. We can keep it the same, but at least we have a logic as to how we came up with a number. May it be back in 1996, or may it be in 2020. But there's something in our charter or something in our ordinances that state, here is the logic. So it has nothing to do with raises at all. What I'm speaking about has nothing to do with a raise at all. Yeah, I keep hearing the word raise, raise. I took this job because, you know, I love to do this work. Yes, that's fine. I took this job because I love the work for the citizens of Ocoee. And it had nothing to do with money at all. It has something to do with what my conviction was toward the city. And another conviction that I have is to make sure that we're doing things the right way. That is a part of what I was elected to do, to make sure that we are doing things the way we should be doing them.
All right.
Now,
All
do
right.
I believe, I'm gonna finish. Now, do I believe that we're doing things the right way? Yes, I do. I think that we can do better in some areas as opposed to others. That's all I'm saying. I think we can do better by making sure that we have procedures in place as far as our salaries.
All right, I think you can go back and find that stuff.
I can go back and find that stuff, and if you'd like, we can send what Craig had come up with
It all
a
comes
year and a
down,
half
like I
ago.
said a while ago. It all comes down to what 5 people up here are gonna do. Nobody else is gonna do it. It's these 5 people. Get a consensus, if they wanna put it on the ballot or wanna put it for a vote here where you get the vote, is what you're gonna have to do. And consensus is what you're gonna have without doing any raises. Not cause raises or not, but it's called a raise.
It's not a raise.
If you go from 5,000 to 8,000, that's a raise. I don't care how you look at it.
I didn't say anything
What my
about
wife would
raises.
tell me.
I said procedures.
What are we doing?
Logic.
Well,
It
the
has nothing to do with
logic-
raises.
The procedures are there, you can put
It
in
has
there
nothing to
what
do
we
with
got
raises.
now.
When I write down a procedure, it has nothing to do with raises. This is how we came up with X, Y, or Z.
I'll tell you-
It has nothing to do with raises.
Well, you weren't here, but I know how it came about. I wouldn't want to tell you how the one part come about for the per diem. I'll tell you, there was a gentleman that didn't have any money, that was a commissioner that always wanted to have money, that needed something to go and do all the time, so the city manager helped raise the per diem.
Well, I'm not here to air your dirty
No, I'm
laundry
just telling
from
you, that's-
years
you wanted
ago.
what
I'm not
the
here to air
procedure
your dirty
was.
laundry.
I'm telling you.
You can keep that to yourself.
Well,
All I
I'm
want
just
to know is a
telling you.
procedure. We don't care
You wanted to
anything
know,
about
I told you.
it. I didn't want to know. All I wanted to know is, where's the logic?
The
That's
logic.
all I want to know.
Here's the deal. Commissioner Wilson doesn't want to do it. I'm consensus. So we can't vote on it tonight anyway, but you can get a consensus. Because first, I'm not going to vote to put it on the ballot. I'm not going to vote to put
I'm
it
not asking
on.
to put anything on the ballot.
I don't think we can do any of that.
We can't.
I don't
We
think we
can't
can.
vote for it.
Right, but I don't think, I mean,
You can
we
voice
make
your opinion
statements.
about the
That's all we're
raises.
doing.
The per diem.
Not raises.
It is a raise.
Well, you call it what you want to call
I'm
it.
going to tell the
It's not-
citizens
it's not
what
a
it
raise.
is.
It is not a raise.
It is a raise. You think if you put that out on a public information, they wouldn't tell you it's a raise?
No, it's
You
not.
go get a job and tell you what people tell you. But that's beside the point. It's going to come down to 5 of us, trying to decide.
We digress. We agree. It's not a raise. Okay.
It's
Let's
going
move
to
on.
come down, I know it is a raise.
I have another question on a different matter,
Huh?
kind of shifting gears out of that rut.
Thank you.
City Hall. I know it's in here, because I saw it somewhere, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but where are we in the status for City Hall? Are they moving forward again? And is it gonna
Jamie.
cost us more? Are we budgeted for that? move
Well,
forward?
part of the bond issue, the 13 million that we're going to realize
Right.
next month is to complete
Right.
it, yeah. So that'll be realized in this fiscal year, though. There's nothing showing for next fiscal year in that. But as far as the schedule, Jamie can address that.
We are actually a little bit behind schedule in the design. We were due to get our construction documents in at the end of May, and we actually rejected our first set, as the city manager knows. We've had a little bit of issue getting the documents to where we want them. However, we should get our construction documents by the end of this week. We'll go through them, and then it should be bid out, and we will be back with a GMP sometime in, I believe, September. They do have to put it out for, Wharton Smith will put it out for bid before we get our GMP. We'll have to negotiate that GMP, and then it will be brought back to you.
I
But
think,
yes, we are
Commissioner, I
running
think
a little
Jamie's
bit
being
behind.
very nice, but the first sets that we got in May had serious issues, and we weren't happy with the quality of what we got, and we had to reject them and tell them to do it correctly and stop wasting our time. And it set us back probably a couple of months because of that, but it was a quality issue, and the documents were not what they were purported to be, and they didn't go through quality check, and we had serious issues with them, and Jamie and her staff has done a lot of work to keep that on track since then.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because obviously, in the course of time, goods and services go up, and we're budgeted for X number of dollars for this project. And it's coming, I don't know exactly if we're gonna be able to finish that project in 12 or 18 or 24 or 29 months. I don't know, but I know goods and services will go up during that time.
Oh, we're hoping they go down even
Well,
because of the virus.
We're actually hoping that the price we get will be slightly better than what we're anticipating.
Okay.
I will tell you that we will get a guaranteed maximum price, and they will have to stay by that price for the 18 months of construction. The one concern we have is that we are seeing a very, very long lead time on items, even including carpeting and a lot of the mechanical equipment. However, right now, we are still at the 18-month construction timeline, and we're waiting to see if that changes when we get our bids back in. We're actually bidding in a very good time period. There's a lot of larger jobs that are finishing up. School projects have finished up. There were some jobs in Orlando that have gone on hold, so I believe that our timing is actually very good.
Okay, because again, I'm concerned budgetary-wise, what's that's gonna mean for us. I know there's a lot of construction products that come from outside of the U.S. borders, and so that can cause us a little bit of a hiccup, and I just want to be mindful of that, because I think we're spending a lot of money on our city hall, so just food for thought, I guess.
Can I ask a question in that same area, if you don't mind?
Floor is yours.
Are we going to hire someone to oversee that project? Like, I don't know what it's called,
We
but
already do.
can we hire someone that's
We-
outside of the?
Right, we actually have an owner's rep that we've been working with, which is Andy Brooks at CHA. Also, we will have a construction administrator from the architect that will also help us through the construction process. I will tell you that staff is going to bring back, when we bring back the GMP recommendation, to have a waterproofing consultant on site during part of the process. That's to check the windows, and because it's a brick building, we just want to ensure that everything is watertight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, what is, there's supposed to be another meeting, what, next week?
Yeah, Mayor, it's 7 days later, so it's Wednesday
we
of
don't
next week, the
Need to
19th.
do that till we have the public hearing on the 9th of September, do we?
Oh, man, what do we?
Yeah, I believe first public hearing is the 9th.
Huh?
Yes.
First public hearing is the 9th.
Our next meeting is the 19th, which is another workshop. Correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
So I
We
have
don't, we don't, if, we don't need to do it.
And then we go into the two public hearings, which are the 9th and the 23rd.
Yep.
Okay.
Good night.
We're gonna have to do that, the viral, what do you call it, like we did with the meeting where people,
Virtual?
virtual,
Yes.
unless the governor changes it.
No, well, as of right now, any meetings up until September 1st, so if that executive order is not renewed for after September 1st, our hearings would have to be in person. So typically what they've been doing is the day before, is extending the, I didn't think he could do anything more than 30 days at a time as far as that, so, but we'll double check on that.
But we also gave you the authority.
Right, but we
to-
still have to have the executive order because that actually pertains specifically to public meetings. So the executive order lets you do the virtual meetings, but it doesn't make you do the virtual meetings. So
But
that's
we-
the authority you've granted.
But we granted you that authority at one of the
Right,
last
but we
commissions.
still have to have the executive order extended, unless, like Melanie says, she saw something to October 1st. I think that was everything else in the original emergency order, and then there was a separate one specifically for public meetings. But we'll double check. to make sure. Well, okay, so right now, we plan on doing virtual, unless there's something to do with the executive order that says we can't do them virtual.
Do you have any more comments, Rebecca?
I don't, but to be clear, are we having the second budget workshop next week? No, sir. Okay.
No, is that canceled?
Well,
Do we, can we actually vote on it during
I
this?
think we,
There's no need for it. I
no,
don't think we ever
we
need
didn't,
for it.
everybody, Kat,
Yeah.
No, 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 no,
I mean,
no.
we do every year. I
You
can't
can't
remember if
show
we
up
actually
if
just
you
do a
like.
consensus or a vote on it, but,
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't think you vote on it
but-
during this.
So September the 9th at 6 o'clock.
yeah, we'll take the input that you've all given us tonight. I don't know that we really have too many numbers to rework. And we'll bring the final figures, and we'll be ready for the first budget hearing on the 9th.
You're gonna check on the speed bumps like for some of those places, right? The other is one I called you about a while back. I don't understand how it's never been done, is Ruiz Avenue. Ruiz Avenue, they've asked and asked, and I don't know if you've been told, but that's where everybody goes to the Little League Field the back way, and everybody comes down through there by the railroad tracks. That is a dangerous place. Then they don't stop at the stop signs. So that's another one, Ruiz Avenue, and I'm gonna throw that in.
At the railroad track.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I got one last, I'm glad you mentioned it. One last thing. We cleaned up Blue Jay Way last weekend.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about it last year about trying to find some monies to maybe pave that. I don't know if Mike I don't know if we still have an issue with being able to pave it or not,
I thought there was a technical issue.
because we're out there and, you know.
The issue you described is the ownership of
Correct.
that. Two issues, the ownership and the ability, and then there's the physical practicality of getting the pavement in there. But
So-
the ownership has not changed, it's still the rear yards.
There's an easement, correct, Mike? There's an easement over it. So basically, we typically wouldn't want to put any pavement over something we don't own. And
Right, and that's what I'm asking. I know there's pavement back there now, but no one knows who paved it and when. So I didn't know if that was an electrical easement. I don't know what kind of, I don't know what that was. And so I know it's a water easement.
Utility.
Oh, that's even worse.
It's a utility easement, and they put up like what would be an all-weather surface, a lime rock, just about anything they could find years ago, and just kind of graded it out. To do asphalt, it's all handwork, and if you think a speed table's expensive, when we tried to get pricing the last time, it was through the roof.
Okay. I'm cringing behind my mask. You can't see me.
All right, September the 9th at 6 o'clock. Well, next week we have a meeting Tuesday night. Next Tuesday night. Be here. Wear your mask.